Okay, in this video I'm just going to quickly cover a couple of key points about our smiley face exercise that we do as part of our introduction to AutoCAD. So this smiley face CAD file can be found on the Teams pages for any of the courses that you might be doing where AutoCAD is part of it. You can download it from Teams and then open it to be able to work on it. And one of the key things this starts to introduce us to or reinforce is the idea of typing commands. And something quite often that we haven't really mentioned in class before we actually open this is a polyline. So the first exercise is actually a polyline. But if we step back a second, what we've got is 25 squares, individual squares. Each square has an individual instruction. So once you complete a instruction, you should move on to the next square. So even though the first ones are all polyline exercises, once you finish the first instruction, move to the second square to do that next instruction. And essentially all of these ones down here, or most of them, the next box after the one you're working on is actually what is the answer to the previous box. So over here on the right, we have an instruction for each box. So again, you can get used to zooming in and out with this. Pan, zoom in and out. So the words in pink is the command that you type into AutoCAD, and in the light blue is the instruction on what to do. So draw one polyline through the centers of the circles in box number 1, and the command is P line. So if we work over here, we type in P line, and you can see even after PL, it gives us the polyline option at the top of the list. And we can now hit enter. And we do want to, if we follow the instruction, make sure that we snap to the center of the circles. I currently have my quadrant snaps on as well. We don't want that. So the center, and we just work our way through and snap to the circles. What I'm going to do now is, and then once you've done, escape. I'm actually going to go down to my snaps and turn the quadrant off. Okay, and that is instruction number 1 complete. So we go back, instruction number 2, P edit. So we now want to edit a polyline. So the instruction was P edit, or the command, sorry, P edit, there it is, enter. Select the polyline we want to edit. So we're following that grey instruction that comes up. It says to select a polyline, so we'll select a polyline. And then the instruction was to choose fit. Oops. And then, yeah, so with it wants to keep going. We could change the instruction, go backwards and forwards, but fit is what we want to do. Once you've done it, escape. And number 3 is spline. So box number 3, again, P edit. Select the line, and this time choose spline. And I think number 4 is width. And you see, as I go PE for P edit comes up straight away. I don't have to keep typing. I can hit enter. Select that, width, and I think it was 10. And we've now changed the width of our polyline. Okay, so you can keep working your way through the instructions. I don't need to do all of those. I won't do every single instruction in here as part of this exercise either. So you can work your way through. The join one is one that sometimes people trip up on. So number 6. So P edit is the command again. P edit, enter, select the polyline, and then choose join. And then in order, as far as this first one connects on to the polyline, so I select that line first, then that one, enter, and we've now joined those other lines into our polyline as now one item. Okay, I didn't actually say that at the beginning. A polyline is a series of lines that actually are joined or connected into form one entity, as opposed to individual lines that just join on end for end. So you can work your way through that. When it comes times to doing things like an ellipse down here, we could use the ellipse command. If we choose this option, we start with the center. If we choose this option, we start with the ends of the axes. And you see if you hover over that for a few seconds, it will actually show you the 3 points you have to connect or click on or select and the order in which you do it. So we go back to center. The first point is the center, and then it's the long axis and the short axis. And then if it's on the axis version, we actually choose one end of the axis, then the other end, and then the short axis. So it tells you how to use the tool. So then if we, oops, come on, I don't want, there we go. And then if we look at some of these ones where we are moving and copying, so number 12 is copy. So copy objects to form two faces using the snaps and the center and end point command. So this is part of the face, one eye, and so we can select that. Choose copy. I'll choose the center of the circle as my base point. The base point is always on the part that you are copying, and it's a reference point for you to line up where you want to copy that part, all those items to. So when we do the little sort of hat and the eye patch, copy, I could choose the end point as my reference on the hat and line that up with the end point on the other arc for the rest of the face. Then when I choose the smile, copy, if I hover over this arc, it'll give me the center point. That's my reference. As I cross over this circle, it'll highlight the center point for that. And that's where I want to line the smile up with. And then escape again to get to turn it off. Okay. Scale should be fairly straightforward. Rotate, select the whole face, rotate. Again, I want to rotate it about the center, so I need to hover over the edge of the circle to get the center to highlight. And then it follows a line from that center, and it says to rotate clockwise, I think from memory, 14 to the, well, it says to the right, so that would be clockwise, so rotating it in this direction. So to come down this way, the angle, because we're going clockwise, we're coming down from the X, it would be negative 90. Okay. Array, number 17. I like to select the items first, so I'll select that. Click on the wee arrow beside array and choose polar array. Specify the send point. So again, it's telling me with the instruction. So the little trick here is the center of the circle is not the same as the midpoint of either of the lines. I might not have my midpoint turned on. No, I don't. So the center of the circle or the intersection of the two lines is important to make sure you select that. If I go and turn midpoint on, the midpoint of the line, see, is not actually in the center. So there's a little trap. If you have midpoint turned on and you choose that instead, your array will not be as accurate as it should be. So center point is where we want the, center of the circle. And then we can choose or type in how many items. And then we can close the array. So I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just moving through it. So chamfer and fillet. A chamfer is a straight edge or a flat surface that is at an angle to something else, often used as a lead-in in a production scenario where you have components following a conveyor and you don't want them to catch. Or it could just be to break a sharp edge. So a chamfer, now I'll go back to, I've been using the toolbars when I've been doing my rotate, array, etc. But you can also type those commands in. So I'm going to type in chamfer, enter. The key thing here is to note that currently the distances are 0 and 0. So if I don't change anything, it's going to give me a square corner, not a chamfer. So let's try that again. So I need to change those distances. So I can go down and click on distance. And now it's asking me, so the first distance is 200. Enter. The second distance is 70. Enter. The first line will adopt the first distance back from the imaginary intersection. So if I choose this line first, it will be 200. And then this line will be 70. Fillet is the same. You need to click on radius to enter a size for the fillet. A fillet of 0 used in this situation to trim the 4 corners. Fillet. The radius is already on 0, but if I needed to change it, I could either click on radius or choose R, enter, and then enter a radius, enter, and then when I do it, it will give me a radius of 50. Undo that. But we actually want a radius of 0, so fillet. The radius I can check at the bottom is back to 0, which is good. Now I want to do all 4 of these at once. The radius tool generally turns off after you do just one operation. So let's click on multiple. And then as we go, we can continue to go all the way around. And essentially trim that into a neat 4-corner shape. Why would you do that instead of using trim? If, for example, this line didn't actually cross the other one and it was only this long, trim would not work because there's nothing to trim to. So it would trim that all the way back to there, wouldn't extend that. Same with extend. It will extend this one, but not trim that. So in this scenario, a fillet with a radius of 0 will extend and trim in the same operation. Lastly, stretch. Stretch is really useful when you want to maintain this sort of shape as a triangle, but the lengths of the sides and the angle has to change. So to use stretch, you must use a crossing window. So if we type in stretch, it actually tells you select objects to stretch by crossing window or polygon. So what that means is we need to come in here and choose a crossing window. We have to include the corner of the triangle, not just the 2 lines. We've selected enter, and now we can stretch. So if we do that again, if I start stretch and I don't include the corner, enter, it won't work, nothing will happen. Because it can't stretch those 2 lines and change their length and angle unless it's stretching the corner. I can select with the crossing window the items first and then type stretch. I didn't select the circle, which is fine, it'll still stretch the triangle. Okay, so those are some of the key sort of tips and tricks for doing some of these commands. And if you're doing this yourself at home, a little secret, if you go up to the layers and unfreeze this one which says hide, it will show you the answers. or the expected answer. And particularly when you're trying to use the trim and the extend feature down here, having an idea of roughly something to aim for is is obviously very helpful. And you can see here some of these lines we want to extend over that one up to the arc, some of them just to there. Likewise with the trim, some we want to trim all the way through, some we only want to trim in the middle, just as a way of practice. Okay, so that's an introduction to the smiley face exercise. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next time.